Hey there, welcome to sketch number 4. Now, sketch number 4 has 4x4 photos in a grid centered on the layout. And this is a favorite one of mine. It's very simple, and I think I'm going to keep my layout pretty simple. It shows a little bit of embellishment in the center where the 4 photos meet. And you could definitely add embellishment other places if you want to, but I don't think you have to. So I may end up tucking a few things here or there, but for the most part, I'm going to stick pretty closely to this. And I wanted to point out before I get started that this is 4x4, but you could do it with 3x3 photos. You could do it even with 5x5 photos if you want something a little bit larger. I think you could do this with 4x6 photos. You would just extend this so that the photos touch the sides of the layout, so it would be like a block across the middle, and I think that could definitely work as well. Let me just show you what I mean there. So for the layout that I'm going to be creating today, I'm using these 4 photos, and they don't exactly match. Some of them are a little bit brighter in color. These ones are a little bit more blue, but I'm talking all about my family's pink couch, and we had this from the time I was a baby clear up until we moved out of our first home when I was almost 16. And so I want to use these 4 photos together, but I wanted to show you if you wanted to do a 4, these aren't quite 4x6, I think they're 3.5x5 or something like that. So my photos will be a little bit smaller than is shown on the layout, but I will cut them square because I think that they're easily cut down, these particular photos. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I wanted to show you how if you had 4x6 photos, you could definitely still do this, and you just place some sort of embellishment in the center there. In the sketch it shows a circle just because that's an easy, obviously I wouldn't put this here, but just to show you that it's an easy way to bring the photos together is to use a circle. And I think it'd be really cute actually if you punched a circle like a little bit larger than the 4 photos and then place something in the middle of it so that it has the space around the outsides. I think that would work really, really well. I'm leaning toward the idea of placing a couch in the center of mine. I'm not sure if that's going to work yet. I might use it in my title area. So, but I do have this little pink couch that I want to use for sure. So that is kind of where I am starting here. This one, if you rotate it, it doesn't really make a difference because it's all square. And so just keeping that in mind, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with these 4 photos and get those cut down. So I've gone ahead and trimmed my photos and matted them on white cardstock, and you can see I pulled a few papers out to play with. Now, one of the cut files that's included in this class is a background cut file, and it's square and it just has stripes on it. And I thought this would be fun to use for this layout kind of as a border. I love a diagonal striped border, so I'm playing around with how I might want to use it and place the photos. I thought about tucking the photos within the lines, and I like that idea a lot. But in the end, I decided that I wanted to mount my photos directly to this text print from Maggie Holmes. I love Maggie Holmes text prints. They just seem perfect. I don't know. And I like the way that the diagonal looks as a border around that. So I'm just kind of placing my photos down, and you can see that I'm placing my photos so that the 2 bluer photos are diagonal from each other, and that really helps to balance them. So now I'm trying to decide if I want to put the text behind the stripes or on top of it. And I cut down my paper, my patterned paper for my background, and decide that I'm going to go ahead and commit to placing the text print on top of the diagonal. Just because I wanted something more solid for the photos to rest on. Sometimes things can get a little busy if you have too much pattern going on. And so I'm just trying my best to center this on the background. I don't care if it's exactly perfect, but I want it pretty close. And I'll go ahead and adhere this one down as well. So I'm using some double-sided sticky tape. I love peeling the backing off that double-sided tape for some reason. It's one of my favorite adhesives, and it's from ThermoWeb. And now what I'm going to do is stitch around that square, and I really love the way that ends up looking. It just kind of makes things feel like they belong together rather than they're just 2 things placed together because they're stitched together. And so I like doing things like that when I can. So I stitched around the text print paper as well as the outside border of the white cut file. and I'm just pulling the threads through to the back and using some washi tape to adhere them down. And there you can see that the stitch lines, you can see it really well on the white, and then you can barely see it on the text print, but it looks really good, and I like the way that looks. So now I'm going to try to decide where I want to use that pink couch. And I'm kind of thinking that I'm not going to be able to use it in the center of the photos. And I've already kind of been playing around with my title a little bit. I can't decide. So the title's going to be This Pink Couch. And the words this and couch come from some new Maggie Holmes puffy alphabets. And I'm trying to figure out what I want for the word pink. And I thought I can't have the word pink not be pink. I considered doing it cream, but it needs to be pink. So I kind of chose those older thickers that the P, all of those letters kind of just rest on the cushion, and I like the way that looks. And I decided to also add in some floral pieces just because I wanted to break up all of the harsh lines a little bit. And so that's not shown in the sketch, but I did add the extra embellishment with the floral pieces. So now I'm trying to find some flair that I think might be able to go in the center of this whole thing. And because I thought flair would be something nice for that circular element in the middle. And so I'm going to play around and look through all of my flair. I don't have a ton, but I don't know, maybe compared to other people I do. And I'm just trying to decide exactly what I want to use. I can't quite decide. That circle alone, the flair alone, doesn't seem substantial enough. And so I'm looking through some of my other stickers and embellishments to see if there's something else that can help it out. So pretty much I'm looking for another circular element that I can place behind it or around it. Just something to kind of bulk it up a little. So I remembered I had some little circular dies and that go with my, I keep wanting to say Cuttlebug, but it's the Diamond Press. It's the tiny little cutting machine. You'll see me pull it out here in just a second. And or maybe I don't end up using it. I can't remember, but I did use this punch. It's a 1 1/4 inch punch, and I'm going to use a white pen to trace around this because I decided to do the thing that I talked about in the very beginning of this video, which is to punch a circle out of the center of the 4 photos. So the way that I decided where I needed to punch was to punch out a circle, trace it onto the photos, and then use the punch to line it up to where I traced it. And that helps give some bulk to that circle, even though I didn't actually add anything to it yet. It's already helping that I have that cut out there. So that helps. And of course you could instead just cut a piece of paper to stick in the middle rather than go to the trouble of punching the corners out of the photos, but I like the way that looks. So I'm looking for anything that might still be able to go behind that flare. I'm thinking the things that I have pulled now are just a little bit too small still. I wanted something larger. But I do decide to just go ahead and pull out my Diamond Press and cut out a little scalloped circle. I used some glitter paper. Actually, I used that tag. It's a glitter tag. And I just put it through, and it's barely larger than the flare, so I'm still hesitating on whether or not it's going to be enough for me, but I do end up using it and I like it. It's just a little pop of gold, and I think it's important that I put that pop of gold because I've got some gold going on in the title. So I'm still looking through my embellishments to see if there's anything else that I might want to add in there with it, or anything else that I can add maybe as a third layer to that cluster just to bulk it up even a little bit more. I thought about layering a little sticker wreath around it, but that was a little too big. And so I'm just kind of struggling a little bit to find, sometimes I get picky and I need something that's exactly perfect, and I need to be okay with good enough, which is usually fine, but there's just every once in a while there's something that I'm like, no, I need this exact thing. So that's kind of what I was doing there. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my photos because when I don't know what to do, I go ahead and I move on to what I do know. And I do know that I want these photos here centered on that grid. So I'm placing those down, and I'm just using a little bit, excuse me, of a tape runner there to get those stuck down. And you can see my nice circle in the center there. And I'm going to go ahead and just adhere those 2 layers with the gold glitter and the flare in the middle. I'm using a little bit of that double-sided tape to adhere the flare. It's really strong, and because it's on the glitter, it needs that strength. So I'm going to pop the couch up on some foam, and I like to use Fun Foam, which is adhesive on one side, so I have to add adhesive to the other side. And it's just really inexpensive. You can find it in the crafting aisle or even sometimes the kids aisle at your local craft store, or Walmart is where I got mine actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and place these letters down, and I'm kind of using the top of the photo as a guide for me to get this nice and straight-ish. So I will use, again, the top of my photo as my guide to just place those left letters as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and kind of play around with these floral pieces a little bit. So these are die cuts from We Are Memory Keepers. And I'm going to cut one of them in half so I can use it in 2 places, because I decide I want to have 3 areas where you can see that little peak of floral. So this is something extra that I decided to add in. These embellishments weren't shown on the sketch or anything, and I don't think you necessarily need them, but sometimes I just like to add more stuff. So that's what this is. And so I'm just placing those flowers in the 3 places, and I think you could definitely stop right here where I am, add your journaling, and be done. But of course, I just have to add more because that's who I am. So I'm adding just a little bit more. I won't add too much. I'm trying to decide what kind of stickers I can bring in. And one of the things that I think helps that these photos work together that are kind of different tones is the fact that I included pinks as well as some cooler tones with those, bringing those florals in. There's kind of a aqua color and then also the dark blue color, and I think that really helps to tie in the blue tones, and I think it makes it all work together. So now I'm just I've typed up my journaling on my typewriter, and I'm just cutting it into little strips here. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the bottom of the layout, and then I write the date of each photo on the photo with a white pen. And that is pretty much going to finish off this layout. You do have to wait for that white gel pen to dry, but I've been pretty happy with the Jelly Roll white pen and the way that it works on photos. So just be sure to write slowly and to let it dry. And then the last thing I'm going to do, because I can't go without it, is a few little splatters of the Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. And I'm going to sprinkle it down by the journaling and by the floral clusters and up at the top and kind of everywhere. Just a little bit here and there though. So here's a look at the final layout and the original sketch. You can see I kept really close to it. The journaling is centered on the bottom of the original sketch, but because I decided to put an embellishment cluster here, I just moved the journaling over. But you can see that the same visual weight is still taken up by all of this at the bottom here. And then we've got the title here, and then I just added my embellishments in 3 places, which you could do or not do. You could keep this very, very simple and just do the center cluster as well. I hope that you've enjoyed this sketch and that you'll check out Tracy's take on this layout, and we'll see you in sketch 5 with 5 photos.